But to me, again, this is the most important slide that I've encountered in mental health in the last 10 years. And this is a slide on our autonomic nervous system. So our autonomic nervous system regulates all of our automatic responses, everything from digestion, sleep, balance, rest, breathing, heart rate, to our stress response. So the top part of this graph right here is our sympathetic nervous system, which is where our fight or flight response occurs. And the way I'm going to describe this is walking you through a story describing a zebra or a gazelle. I do that because it's less triggering than talking about a traumatic experience with a human, but know that we share the same mammalian nervous system as a zebra. So up here is hot symptoms, which literally you feel flushed and hot in your body, you sweat, your heart rate increases, your breathing increases, your blood pressure increases, your pupils dilate. That's what a fight or flight response looks like. I'm sure you've all seen that, experienced that. You feel angry. And down here is cold symptoms. You literally feel cold, numb, tingly, nauseous, hopeless. Suicidality happens down here in state 3, depression, hopelessness, and numbness, just checked out, and dissociation. So the story I'm going to tell you is a zebra who at state 0, this is what I call a resource state, not what I call. This comes from people who are smarter than me. And resource state is essentially that zebra is at rest and has everything they need to feel safe in the present moment. So they've got plenty of water, there's no predators in sight, and they're calm and at ease. So most of us hopefully are resourced right now. We've been to the bathroom, we have water, food, we feel safe in this room. And at state 1, there's a little rustle in the bush and the zebra looks over and doesn't see anything, right? This is a low stress state. And this is where I think actually toxic stress and chronic stress occurs. You'll notice there's a little dip right here. And what this indicates is that it actually takes energy to get back to a resource state. And there's a little rut in our nervous system where we can stay in a state 1, which is a low-grade mild stress state, for an extended period of time, like decades maybe. So if you're in that state, this is where cortisol gets released, and that's where we start seeing all of the physiological things happening. And this state feels like mild stress. It doesn't feel like a full-blown fight or flight response. I would venture to say that most of us are in this state most of the time, with our jobs and with our cell phones and with our addiction to technology and with all of the different overwhelming things we have on our plate and the stimulus we have coming in, is that most of us aren't spending a lot of time actually just completely feeling good. A state 2 is a full-blown fight or flight response. So you'll notice this state, there's a little peak and there's not a lot of room to hang out up here. It's not really a sustainable state. So you can't stay in a state 2 for a long period of time. This is where the zebra looks over and there's actually a lion in the bush and it has to run for its life. The full-blown fight or flight response of, I'm not gonna make it, I have to actually fight for my life, and that's all systems go. And what happens here, this is where trauma occurs, is at the overwhelm point. So let's say the zebra gets caught, there's nothing left it can do. There's 2 ways you can go. So if the zebra gets out of the situation and survives, it's going to go back down to a state 1, and you'll see it kind of shake it out and then go back down to a state 0. If the zebra gets caught, it's going to switch into a parasympathetic response, which we think of as the rest and digest response, which it is, but it's also a dissociative response. And we drop down below our normal state of arousal into a state 3, which if you've ever been like severely physical injured and you felt hot and cold at the same time and completely nauseous, that's a state 3. And it's a very unpleasant place to be because there's still a possibility of escape, but you're basically overwhelmed. And this is where, again, we get suicidality, depression, hopelessness. And if you get completely overwhelmed and there's absolutely no possibility of solution, that's a state 4, which is leaving your body in a dissociative experience and numbing out or falling asleep. Or the only other place we see that is in general anesthesia. So that's what you could think of as state 4. So this map, I'll tell you, it might be a lot of information, but if you can actually understand this map and understand that in your own body and understand how this presents with students, you're going to be able to know where students are at physiologically in their nervous system states, and you're going to be able to respond accordingly, just tuning into what they need. If they're in a dissociative response, they need to come back into physical experience. Give them some water, give them some breath, have them feel into their body. If they're in a fight or flight response, they need to let that fight or flight response move. We often try to restrict that response, which is going to send them into dissociation. Like, let it move through them, let them express emotion, and let that come out.